One question people often ask is, do I need to sand before I paint? And generally speaking, the answer is yes. Now personally, I always sand the surface before I start. Sometimes sanding is not actually required, but it's a good idea to remove any gritty bits, etc. that happen to be in the previous coat. So generally speaking, ceilings are painted in a flat finish, so flat finishes are fine. You don't really need to sand them. The basic rule is if it's the rougher the surface, the less sanding that is required. So for argument's sake, you've got external rendered walls that are a rough finish. There's not really much you can do there. It's a bit hard to sand them anyway. So generally speaking, all we have to do is go through and paint it. So that's sort of the rule with sanding. So with a flat finish paint, either oil-based or acrylic, it doesn't matter. You don't have to sand. When you go into a low sheen acrylic, they're not too bad either. A light sand doesn't hurt, but they will stick to themselves. Then when you start moving into semi-gloss acrylics or semi-gloss enamels, they should be sanded. The enamel should have a slightly harder sand than the acrylic, because as I said, once again, acrylics sort of tend to stick to themselves a little bit. And then from there you go into your gloss acrylics or your gloss enamels. Your gloss enamel needs a really good sand, just to roughen the surface up so it gives your undercoat something to stick to. And it's also the same with a gloss acrylic. That should have a sand also, but once again it doesn't have to be as hard. You just want to create a little bit of a key to make sure that your new paintwork sticks to it. So generally speaking, that's sort of the rules when it comes to sanding. The smoother the surface, it needs to be sanded, and the rougher the surface, obviously as you know, I've rendered walls as an example, you don't actually have to sand. Generally speaking, with rendered walls, if you happen to be painting some, the only thing you can do is really go through and scrape off any flaky bits of paint or lumps, etc. on the walls. So that's just a bit of an idea on how you should sand or what you should sand before you start painting.